Time to talk high tech with Paul Brislen, joining us from Auckland Airport this morning. Morning, Paul.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you very much. Yesterday, a huge problem in the first world.
Was it what?
There was a real crisis. Heads of government were meeting about this particular issue. They were thinking about sending the UN to help sort out, perhaps set up camps and that kind of thing.
Aircraft were being scrambled.
That's right.
Exactly. Ships diverted.
The new version of the Apple mobile operating system, they call it iOS5, was unleashed on the world, and it all went
godfathers.
Terribly wrong. Yeah.
Well, yes, it did really, because practically everybody on the known universe now has an iDevice of some kind or another, and they all went onto the website via iTunes to try and install it. So for many hours, I got in fairly early on with my phone, and a 700 megabyte download. I think it was about how big it was.
Really?
That's huge. It was a fair whopper.
For an operating system on a mobile device, I mean, that's...
Well, I don't know what else they packed in there, because, you know, Apple does like to sneak in Safari as many times as it can, for no apparent reason. But it was quite a hefty file. I may be talking porkies now that you're expressing...
well, because, like, I mean, Android... Android is, like, seriously, like, 50 megabytes of that. Or something.
But this was a major overhaul of basically the entire operating system.
Okay.
This is not a minor upgrade. This is a hefty one.
Yeah.
It was sitting there for quite some time, telling me that it was going to take. First of all, it said 40 minutes, then it said 58 minutes, and it said 78 minutes, then it said, can't contact the server. Sorry, you'll have to try again. And eventually, this progressed into the now legendary error 3200. Unknown error, which caused some panic and consternation for those who couldn't figure out how to Google, and those of us who could went online and discovered roughly 5 billion people all trying to access the servers at the same time will generate error 3200.
Well, of course.
But, I mean, you've got to wonder, don't you, that in this day and age, surely there's this way of, if I've downloaded something, I can then share it directly with you, for example, Wemo, who might, on a machine-to-machine, person-to-person, what could we call it? We could call it peer-to-peer sharing.
Yes.
And we could share files that way.
Oh, it sounds illegal. It sounds illegal.
Well, it sounds like something we should ban, doesn't it, really? Because it can only be used for evil-doing.
Yes.
Yes. But no, some of these companies do have to really figure that one out in a hurry, I think. It's not just Apple, it's the software providers who have, try and drive everybody to a certain set of servers. Perhaps in the old days, but these days, no, come on. Let's just spread the love and everybody can sign up.
Last week or week before, we were talking about the Windows Phone 7 Mango update, and the fact that they're rolling that out over the period of a month. As opposed to...
That's right, geography by geography.
In one go.
Yes.
And I'm just looking at a graphic that's I think it was a survey that was done yesterday with the question, have you upgraded to iOS 5? 18% been pushing to iCloud all day, so I got it. 12% said I finally have it running, but things didn't go so well the first time round. 12% said no, I've downloaded the update but can't complete the install. So 6% said help, the iOS 5 update bricked my phone or iPad or iPad Touch. And then 24% said, what's an iPhone? My Mango update went just fine, thanks.
And when you consider all the trouble with BlackBerry as well over the last couple of days, there were a lot of jokes about Apple and BlackBerry crumble, and Mango is one fruit to rule us all, and all this kind of stuff going on. It has been rather amusing to watch from the sidelines.
Yeah.
Once you actually get it, though, assuming it doesn't kill your phone or your iPad, and you do get it operational, there's some fairly serious upgrades in there that I think are going to spell a lot of trouble for the telcos in particular.
Well, you have a new friend built in as well, don't you? Called Siri or something?
That's right. Find my friends, so I can track your every movement, assuming you allow me to, which is something that Google's had for quite some time on its mobile devices. But it's good to see Apple finally playing the game. More importantly for me is the iMessenger capability, which I sort of dismissed when I heard about it, going, oh, yes, yet another attempt to avoid having to pay for text messages.
Yeah.
But what Apple's done that's very smart is they've integrated it with their text message applications. When you hit messages, and I said you a message, you're on an Android, so it goes through as a text. But when I text somebody who's on an iPhone, the phones talk to each other and go, oh, yes, you're on an iPhone as well. No problem. We will route this via the internet, and it won't cost you a penny. And it all happens seamlessly whilst you're typing the message, and it's insanely fast. There's no 160-character limit. There's no problem with multimedia. You can send photos or WAV files or whatever you like. And it just works seamlessly and quietly in the background over your internet.
How is it, and while you're, but even before you've sent it, how is it detecting that the other person on the other end hasn't taken out their SIM card and put it into another phone?
Witchcraft.
Yeah.
It's really the only answer. I've got no idea. It must be something to do with the handshake. Let me think about this, because I texted somebody yesterday, and it was the first time I texted him since updating, and it did take a little while. So there must be some conversation going on between devices saying, are you on iOS5? Yes, I am. What about you? Yes, I am too. Okay, great, we'll use Messenger. And the second time I texted him again, it was seamless. It was fast. I don't know. And straight through.
Because when you think about when there's major congestion, like say like an event is on somewhere,
that's right.
People are texting, and the telco holds back the text messages for a certain length of time, right? It's not holding back a iPhone Messenger thing. It's holding back a text.
It's holding back a text. Text messages go out using the what you might want to consider the sort of the background chatter between devices. So when you send a text message, traditionally, it goes out over that channel that the cell phone uses for communicating with the network. So it doesn't actually take up much space on the network at all. And that means that they're very, very efficient. They can try several times over to get through. They keep repeating for several days until they get there. And they're quite tenacious little things, text messages. They'll go through in just about anything. But these iMessages are just packets shoved out onto the internet, presumably over Wi-Fi as well. Potentially, if you're sitting there at the rugby and the Wi-Fi was on, you'd just be sending your text messages out over Wi-Fi instead of over the cell phone network, which is quite intriguing.
Yes.
But it's yet another example of Apple getting in between the cell phone carriers, the network operators, and the customers, and stripping out yet another, what was quite a hugely cost-effective revenue stream for them. There's going to come a time in the not-too-distant future where the cell phone guys stop building networks because they actually aren't making the money. The money's all going to companies like Apple or Google, BlackBerry, what they call the over-the-top providers, people who provide the services that we now buy, but who don't invest in the network. And that's going to be quite an interesting issue when that does hit the wall finally.
Well, I think they just need to acknowledge that they are internet service providers and provide the infrastructure for high-speed broadband over your phone and
that's right. And get out of the way.
Charge for that. Yeah.
But the problem is the money needed to invest in these networks, they say, is so high. Vodafone's invested a couple of $1 billion. Telecom's XT network cost the thick end of $1 billion. 2 Degrees has invested somewhat less than that, but still a substantial amount, $250-300 million in New Zealand alone. When you think about that per head of population, that's rather a large investment per customer. You'd be hoping that you'd be making lots of juicy money off the likes of text messages and phone calls, and all of that's disappearing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out in the next few years.
Okay, running out of time, so we'll finish up on the copyright notices.
Copyright.
We were talking 2 months.
How many?
2 months
how
ago?
Many?
I'd say they would have sent out 500 by now or something?
Oh, millions, I would have thought. In France they were sending out thousands per week. In Australia, iiNet was complaining that they couldn't process them all. They had something like 25,000 notices sent in a month. In New Zealand, across all of the ISPs that I've spoken to, and I think I've got to everybody, none.
None?
Not one.
Crikey dick.
No, not a thing.
Now, is it because they're charging too much for them, $25?
Well, I think that's what's happening, is that the lawyers sitting back in Hollywood are saying, hold on, if we pay this fee, we then set a precedent for the rest of the world, and the other jurisdictions will start saying, hang on a minute, there are massive costs involved in this. When you have 25,000 notices served on one ISP in a month, you've got to understand that, there's a cost involved in processing all of that. If we start paying in New Zealand, then we'll start paying everywhere in the world. We're not having that. No. So nobody, not a single
ISP
has received a notice, and they've certainly received lots of notices, I should say, but as soon as they say, fine, here's the $25 fee, this is the New Zealand process, please comply with that, it all goes quiet.
Okay. Oh, well, we can also assume that New Zealanders are behaving themselves and not downloading anything illegal.
Well, I guess so, because, or if they are, the value of that download is $24.99 or less. Because if they're not willing to pay $25 to recoup it, it's certainly not worth more than $25 to them. So, that says to me that the fine shouldn't be $15,000 per offence. It should probably be $24.99 per offence. And if that's the case, then I think the problem would probably just go away quite quickly. So, you wait and see, though. I would guarantee that in 4 or 5 months' time, when the first review happens, the rights holders will run to the government and say, this process is not working. And it's up to us to stand up and say, yes, it is. It's working fine. You're not using it. Follow the process and we'll see what happens. There's been a lot of money spent on this. It's high time we tested it out. And
there are also now political options out there as well in this election who will look at this legislation and change it.
And make a change, Although, given that they're not even going to bother applying any of these licenses, for me, the legislation's fine. We'll just leave it alone. If they can't be bothered using the process, too bad.
Okay, Paul, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day in Wellington. See ya.
Oh, for sure. Take care.
23 minutes past 8 here on